Hey everybody, I'm Philip, and today we're going to continue on with Doom Patrol Season 1, Episode 4. Episode 3, we went to Paraguay. We found out quite a bit of information, and that one was probably the hardest review I've had to do in a while. During the actual review, I was having a hard time focusing and thinking of the right words I wanted to say and use in the discussion, and I was really struggling, and it really didn't register at the time, but while editing it, I could tell that the situation with Larry and his backstory really affected me. But hopefully I can maintain and stay focused in this one. I'm still not 100% sold on the series, but I said I was going to give it at least, the halfway point to decide whether to continue or not. Everyone that has seen it has told me to please continue. So we'll see what happens. Let's see how this one goes as we go into episode 4. So without further ado, let's get into it.
In the beginning, there is the light, and the light created a shadow, and the shadow was good.
Run. You're not here to save the world, son. You're here to end it. You're not the savior. You need to run.
Whoops-a-daisy. Sweetie, calm back down. This cake isn't gonna eat itself. Elliot, you get down here and you eat this fucking cake, Elliot!
For the past few days, I've had the sinking feeling.
Like I said to...
That was Baby Doll, and she fucked up too. That's why I'm here.
Did I do something wrong?
There are 37 known dimensions in the universe. As you can see, I've mapped them. Probably want to sit this one out, not being into it and all. But I'm sure we can think of something for you to do if you want.
Kodak! Oh, cunt. Where the hell are you?
That's your name. Kip.
Name's Kipling. Willoughby Kipling. Knights Templar, in case you're wondering. I suppose that means anything to either of you. So Calder never told any of you freaks about the cult of the unwritten book. The book, which they believe to be the word of God, is being written as we speak. Once it's completed, the cult will attempt to read it. If successful, the Eye will be summoned, the Decreator, and the world will be unmade. Book's a person.
That makes no sense.
Where is this book?
The fuck?
Ready and happy, and the gates are opening wide.
Does his story check out?
Ish. He is a member of the Knights Templar and an established chaos magician, which explains some of the weird stuff we've seen so far. But there are a few gaps in his past and some shadows.
And we're supposed to just believe Dark David Copperfield that the world's gonna end?
I don't know if I trust Kipling.
What is that?
What's it look like, Metal Teds? It's a door.
Open a door to anywhere.
You think that's tobacco?
Fuck it, let's party.
What on earth was that?
2 grams of Michelangelo's ashes.
You are not well.
Close the portal! Close the portal!
You give me back my fuck off, shitbird!
Hides him from the cult and buys us time to complete the job.
We saved the kid, what else is there?
And now we kill him.
No way! Not happening! So we closed the gate. How hard could it be?
The gate's not a gate, it's a stigmata on a person on the hands. And as the gates open, more assassins are unleashed.
Assassins?
Any of you know how to sew?
Oh, suddenly I'm useful. To fight assassins, of course.
Dental floss.
Janis Joplin's dental floss. The strongest known spiritual thread in the world. The only thing powerful enough to sew the gates shut.
You mind telling me what put me on your shit list and what the hell Paraguay means?
Oh, fuck!
What?
If I tell you, will you leave me alone? Cliff, you're a fucking monster. You're just another bundle of toxic masculinity.
You're every bit as aggressive as I am.
The difference is I exist for a reason. What the fuck is your excuse?
Maybe Larry's not a hero, but that thing inside him is.
It might also be insane.
Hammerhead, help me close this guy's stupid handgate things.
Right. Here.
Uh-oh.
Where's Hammerhead? I'm stuck in Nurnheim, and I don't even get to yell at Hammerhead?
I'm sorry, sir. Hammerhead has been relieved. The church was too provocative.
God damn it! You feel like
That incantation,
Love me do. Hard Day's Night is much stronger, but I can never remember the words. You stoned?
Running a weapons inventory.
Me too. Scotch. The book's not being hunted by a pack of muggers.
I'll take science over whatever it is that you do any day of the week.
Nobody's rooting harder for you than I. Sounds like you and I know two different Niles Calders. You're young. You can afford to be a little stupid. If you're lucky, you may surprise yourself what you're really capable of.
This is designed to convert energy into an audible frequency. All I need is for you to enter this machine so we may attempt to find your voice. Now, how do you sustain yourself in Captain Trainor's body? How do you live in there?
torture.
How's that? Torture? How?
Wait. I know you.
You tried to steal the book from me.
You're the boy's parents.
We were, but we have ascended.
She talked me into staying safe.
I don't know why,
Yay.
but I thought this horse's ass could save him.
Rita has a purpose.
Hurry, hurry.
Oh no.
Well, put those there.
Oh, Willoughby, they're magic. They're supposed to protect the lab.
Woo.
Magic.
Nice.
Whatever it is up there, we're going to save the world or whatever, and then I will have a stiff Manhattan and go to bed.
I don't care about my destiny. I don't.
I was well on my way out of here when you stopped me, and God knows why. I actually did something good. I am being a good person, and you are absolutely ruining this moment for me. So shut up and pick up the stupid beats!
Sorry. Sorry for what?
Uh-oh. The nuns. Those scalpels are freaking awesome. They look awesome. That design is really cool.
There's only perception.
Mm-hmm.
The way we see things.
Wow.
The way we see ourselves.
Is this really how you see me? Clara?
Oh,
you think I
wow.
see Jane as my daughter?
Nothing.
Oh.
Maybe I should have done a Hard Day's Night.
All right. This is a two-parter I can get behind. That was really cool. That was really cool. I like that. I like that whole idea, the cult of the unwritten book. And it's like the book of God, but it's being written in real time, and it has to be read to summon the eye so the decreator can unmake creation. Very cool concept. I often think about, and I've discussed it in other reviews for other stuff, the idea of cults and what is accepted as belief and what is accepted as heresy. Like what is accepted as sane versus what is accepted as crazy. I never go out of my way to try and ruffle feathers in that respect, because I think anyone can be free to believe or not believe whatever they want. It's what you do with it that is the help or the hindrance, depending on what your motives are. Isn't that the entire modus operandi of a cult? Is the motive behind what you're doing. It's very fascinating. And then you look at something like this, and it looks like a crazy cult, but they actually have a purpose. Their purpose is to destroy the world. Well, like the Archon said, there is no reality. There's only perception. And I've talked about that before in other stuff as well. So it's all perception of how we view things, or how it's viewed. And if enough people agree on a viewpoint and assign a text to it, and agree that this text means this thing, but it can branch off and mean these other things too, as it fits our various agendas, that sounds like a cult to me. What I'm saying though is if you think about it outside the box, if you step outside of it and just look at it without having any attachment to it, detach yourself from the idea, it all kind of looks alike. It's the same like belief structure. It's the same stuff, because it's all built around this principle of idolatry and worship. And some cults worship a higher power. Some cults worship a human being. It's different. From a completely neutral point of view, I look at stuff like this and it fascinates me, because whereas most cult-like behavior has no proof to back it up. Not really. But then you have the cult of their written book, and in this universe, their belief structure is 100% backed up. And in the end, because he was a book and he was read and the eye came. So everything they said was going to happen happened. We have the team still trying to come to terms with whether they're heroes or not. Victor is a hero, he's been raised to believe that he has to be the hero. His dad is, be the hero. And then we have Rita, and she's still, trying to find usefulness, she's still feeling useless. We still have Larry trying to come to terms with this energy being inside of him. We have this relationship between Cliff and Jane. It's a slow burn, and it's going to be, because to win over 64 personalities, it's not going to be easy. Cliff's paternal instinct to want to take care of Jane. Some parts of Jane's personality want that. Others clearly do not. I was wondering where we were going to go after Paraguay, because they really didn't get anywhere in the search for Niles. We find out that there's a bunch of different universes. So I'm sure Mr. Nobody is hiding somewhere among them. Speaking of hiding in plain sight, love that Nirnheim is in that little snow globe that's right on the table. That's awesome. That was a really nice touch. I really appreciate the slow burn everything has right now, as every single person is trying to come to, like I said in the last episode, everyone is trying to come to terms with their own burden or their own identity. It's really cool how it's slowly happening. Like, it's not going to be a thing where, in a movie for an hour and a half, someone tries to learn how to use their powers, and then all of a sudden they magically get them. And then, then they get them and they learn them immediately and become the master of the powers. And then kaboom, it's, there you go. They immediately become badass in the end, which was my major problem with Doctor Strange. Granted, this is a series, not a movie. So they have the time to build slower to it. I'm sure if Doctor Strange were a series, it would have had more time, I hope, to build towards, him getting his powers and learning them and not becoming supreme master of them in about 10 minutes. I just like that. It's a nice slow evolution. You're not only watching these characters struggle, but you're watching them grow, and a slow growth promotes an easier investment from the audience. So yeah, there were parts in this one that were kind of like, okay, it's not some boiled dinosaur celery man. So yay for that. A horse with a like railroad spike in its head singing prophecy. It's a little strange. But it's fine. It's fine. This is one of those things, like I said, like I know nothing about this whatsoever. I went into this not knowing it was a DC Comics thing, not even knowing it was a comics thing. Haven't read the comics, don't know anything about them. This is my first exposure to everything I'm seeing. So it throws you in the deep end of weirdness and you have to acclimate. And I'm doing my best. So yeah, I said I just like this very slow approach, and we get a little bit in each episode. And I went on my little like tangent about the cult, you know, in the initial start of the review. But I like that as a framing device. I'm assuming this is a 2-parter, maybe a 3-parter. I don't know. And I think it's a really cool idea. It's going to be interesting to see where it goes. I'm wondering though, if Mr. Nobody's going to make an appearance, because his need for revenge and hubris I don't think it would allow for someone else to end creation. Because if creation ends, how does he get revenge? Does it end all creation in all planes of reality, or just this one? If it's all of them, there's no way in hell Mr. Nobody's going to let that happen. So to have Mr. Nobody possibly versus this decreator, this, you know, godlike being these people look up to and worship and are bringing back to destroy the world or creation, you know, everything. It's a hypothesis I have right now. But we'll see how it happens. We'll see how it plays out. It could be that this is a step for the gang to be a team and work together. More evolution, slow evolution, and learning to work together and becoming heroes, which has to be the end goal. And as I said in the last episode, I can't wait until they are a full-fledged team and everyone has their powers under control and they are just kicking all the ass. But I am enjoying the journey to that as well. I don't want it to happen, you know, in the next 2 or 3 episodes. Hell, I don't care if it takes like a couple seasons to get there. I would be along for the ride if they keep building the story like they are. But speaking of building, let's go to my notes.
Philip's notes.
That'd be the worst segue of all time. I apologize for that. But I build my notes as the episode goes on. So that's what I was going with. So what are you gonna do? All right, so we open up 17 years ago and we see this baby. Then we see it later on in life. It's growing up. He has markings all over his body. For all the Whovians who gave me shit for not liking the Satan Pit, this is how you do marker face. You know, you think it's like, okay, what's going on? At first I thought it was maybe some kind of mutant kind of thing. Like, you know, were they glyphs? Did they give him powers? Stuff like that. And then they say their prayer before having the cake. And in that prayer, they say, light created a shadow, and the shadow was good. So immediately you think, okay, Satanists, devil worshippers, you know, some kind of evil kind of thing going on. There's still this kind of tension between Victor and Rita, because apparently she wasn't invited to the meeting, but he didn't think she would want to come to the meeting. And he says to her, I'm sure we can think of something for you to do if you want. Which was like, ouch. Then out of nowhere, we get Kip. Kip shows up. Kip is a Knights Templar, which, okay. And he's also a chaos magician. I thought it was very interesting that all of his spells involved pop culture in some way, like Janis Joplin's Dental Floss and the Beatles song. And, you know, it's just very interesting to incorporate popular culture in music, like even Baphomet, you know, singing songs. A very unique take on that idea. But I will say, I thought his magic was really cool and well executed in the episode, rather. Like, I would actually be on board for just a Kip spin-off series. It'd be fun to see what a chaos magician could do. Then we learn about the gates of Nirnheim. And we learn that they are opened. Well, the gates are actually stigmata in someone's hands. And we saw in the beginning of the episode, the Padre doing that stuff to the baby. Rituals. And then they turn into light. And you would think holy people would be like, holy shit. Because don't we attribute light with God and good and darkness with bad and evil? So if somebody gets a stigmata and then light comes out of it, I'm pretty sure they're going to be a patron saint in about 0.2 seconds. We find out that you can seal the gates by sewing them shut with Janis Joplin's dental floss. There you go. We're branching off then. We have Cliff and Hammerhead going to find the Padre, and everyone else stays back in Casa de la Doom. We kind of get more of an explanation, because in the last episode, when Jane saw what Cliff did, she was like, don't. And Cliff says, I'm sorry. And in this one, he's kind of like, what's your problem with me? I've seen you do heinous shit too. And then she says, I exist for a reason. What the fuck is your excuse? And then the whole toxic masculinity and thing, I don't like that side of it. I can see how Hammerhead would be, defense walls up. But I just you were kicking ass. He was kicking ass. His kicking ass was just a little more bloody than yours. To me, it's like you're both playing Mortal Kombat, except Cliff is nailing fatality after fatality after fatality. And it was awesome. But then they're in the church, and Hammerhead really starts freaking out. And, it's something like this is a trigger. This is a trigger for her. And she attacks the Padre. And unfortunately, they obviously don't get the gates shut. They get transported to Nirnheim. And it is now Penny Farthing, a British girl, apparently now. It says Hammerhead has been relieved. The church was too provocative. That is interesting. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. And then I love the juxtaposition of science versus magic between Victor and Kip. And then Victor says, I'll take science over whatever the hell it is you do. And I was like, that's such a... Again, it's like, if you can kind of mirror it to the cult. It's, science and magic, faith versus reason. And just the parallels there are really fascinating. I really do. I could go on a very long tangent about all of it, like religion and science and faith and all of it. Then there's a moment where Larry is talking with Elliot, and he says, I tried being a hero and it destroyed everything I had. You were lucky. When is this a flashback we haven't had yet? Because everything I've seen about Larry, he is not a fucking hero. He's not. I said in the last episode that I empathized with everyone in the situation, from John to his wife to Larry. But I'm kind of getting over this whole Larry being the victim thing that he's doing. When he was yelling at the energy being, he says, I had everything and you fucked it up for me. And then the visage of John says, no, you fucked it up. And I get that this is a lesson Larry needs to learn. Accountability and ownership and all of that. But man, I hope we get there. And as I said, I'm here for the slow burn. I am. But when something burns slow, the smell lingers for a long time. And I will be annoyed by the smell. And it'll be nice when he finally realizes that he just destroyed lives. Not just his own was destroyed. He was already destroying lives before his life, as he knew, was destroyed. And then during the episode, the energy being kept trying to make Larry watch these tapes of him being interviewed by Niles. And it would just turn him off because, like the first one was, tell me about your wife. I think her name's Claire. I met her in high school. We were sweethearts or whatever. And then he says, tell me about John. And he's like, excuse me? Like, all right. Turns it off. Gets all mad because he's got that cognitive dissonance about himself. But eventually he catches what energy being wants him to see. And that's Niles found a way to talk to the being through this device that it could go inside of. And he asks, what's your name? Where did you come from? How do you sustain yourself inside of Larry? And it sounds like it says torture. Initially, you might think that's what he's doing. But you kind of start to think that's what it's feeling. That it is trapped, just like he is. And imagine being this energy being floating through space. And then you are, stuck inside this human body. And you have no control anymore. That's got to be... Yeah. And then Cliff and Penny are inside Nirnheim. They go to the Archons. The Archons are the boys' parents. The character design, the makeup and design of the Archons and the sisters and all of it were awesome, or really freaking cool. I like the idea of the assassins being made up of like dead skin and like the pages of unwritten letters. That's just so cool. And finally, Rita has a purpose. Elliot's, pondering killing himself, and she talks him off the ledge, literally. Takes him back down to the cellar area. She steps all over the rosary and it goes everywhere, and she's like, oh no. They're trying to put it back together. Kip is fighting with Victor upstairs and like throws him to the wolves. He runs downstairs to take his flaming sword. I forgot to say that in their science versus magic battle. Victor gets out the cannon, it turns his hand into a cannon, and then Kip gets out a flaming sword. So, it's science and magic. Thought it was really cool. But yeah, Kip runs down to the cellar, presumably to kill Elliot, to stop this thing from happening. And then Jane just, becomes, like I said before, if she can learn to control it, she can do some cool stuff. But it was cool to see her have like some exertion of control over her power in a moment where she needed to be the hero. She could control what she was doing, and not just turn into like some blob thing. So I like that we're making evolution with her as well, as far as what she can do with her powers. And then I like Rita, but man, her ego is so just like, holy shit. Like everything has to be about her. They're trying to pick up the rosary beads, and Elliot just kind of gives up and, tells her what's the point. And she's like, you need to pick these up, you need to help and all this stuff. And then, he's saying no. And she says, I am being a good person and you are ruining this moment for me. Now get down here and help me. It was funny. And then the last thing I wrote, what I talked about earlier, when the Archon said there is no reality, only perception. Then it was how you see yourself. And Cliff was human again. And Jane was like all these fractured pieces of a mirror with all the different personalities there. And there's also not just how you see yourself, but how you see others. Cliff is back to being a metal dude, but he's covered in blood. And he says, this is how you see me. And then he turns to look at Jane, and it's his daughter. So, and he says, you think I see Jane like my daughter? I think the weakest part of the episode to me is how Jane sees Cliff like this murderer, just because he's a guy. Like, I get it from Hammerhead's point of view, because she is very, very protective and defensive, and one would think for good reason. I'm sure that will get addressed, and I will have less of a problem with it in the future. And that is all for my notes. Everything else are from my patrons over on Patreon. This was a fun one. As I said, I really like the framing device of the cult. I like the cult in general, what they represent, what they're talking about. I like the execution. Love the makeup and costume design of it. And the notion of what happens next. Because you have a decreator. As I said, the only thing that I could think of that could match a decreator is a nobody. So we'll see how that's resolved in the next one. And I can say, legitimately for the first time since starting the series, I'm actually looking forward to the next one more than I have anything that I've watched so far. Obviously they're going to win, but we'll see how it happens. And even if it's not Mr. Nobody, hopefully it plays out in a way that makes sense. Well, I say makes sense. This universe has like exploding portal donkeys and horses that sing and boil dinosaur celery men. It makes sense. I guess hopefully it's not disappointing. I've had that happen before where I get my hopes up for something and then it doesn't happen the way I want it to. And I'm like, oh, it's happened with Doctor Who. It happens. But I try not to let that ruin the moment for me in general. But yeah, we'll see what happens in the next one when we get to it. But for now, that's going to wrap this one up. As always, I don't have a fancy outro, so I'll simply say thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Until then, goodbye.